How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to TableTakes. We have a lot of really cool headlines today. In fact, some would say too many headlines, but we cut them down. We're going to cut them down just for you. We also have a very special segment today of Interview Worthy with the Dietz Foundation. Jim Dietz is coming to tell us all about the Dietz Foundation, so stick around to the end of the episode to hear more. But as always, I want to get a quick check-in with all of our lovely hosts today. We've got Bonsai Baby, Noir Enigma, and our producer, Marcus Mays, is gracing us once again with his presence. Thank you for joining us, Marcus. How have you been?
I've been good. I just got back from GAMA, 2024, GAMA Expo 2024. A little bit of a travel nightmare getting back. We were living I thought I was going to have to live in North Carolina for a little bit. They did open up residence at the airport, which was nice. We all had a nice nap. We knew everyone's name on that flight. It was wonderful. It was the best case scenario and a worst case scenario travel experience. But I am so happy to be back here at Table Takes with some of my favorite people in the world. And let's talk about some news.
Excellent. And I can't wait to hear more about your experience at Gamma later on today.
Ooh,
So,
thank you.
looking forward to hearing much more about that as well. Never been myself, always wanted to. Uh, Noir, how have you been this week? What have you been up to?
I've been playing far too much Helldiver. Also, I got to try out the Daggerheart open beta, and we had a really cool surprise in the sense that Critical Role stopped by, checked us out, gave us compliments, gave a bunch of people in chat subscriptions and everything. I got and of course we were all in cosplay, and Travis will have shouted out my costume. So thank you very much, buddy.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's super cool. What the heck? Hype.
Yeah, I geeked out.
You had every right to, as your human right. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Well, awesome. I'm glad that everybody's been doing such exciting things. What about you, Bonsai?
Mostly just enjoying the sunshine that now that it is spring coming in. And also I got this in the mail, the thing
Ooh,
I kickstarted a while back with the
giant foam
foam
dice.
giant workable or actual usable D&D dice. It is actually really, really nice. I had to keep it away from my dog from eating it. That's the
Mhm.
only issue that we've had so far with it. It's very nice and very soft, and the little one likes to roll it, so it's all good. Yeah.
I know exactly how you feel, Bonsai. I am constantly struggling with this guy over here. His name's CJ.
Yeah, how
Uh,
have you been with all the whole house sitting and everything like that?
it's interesting. I have four jobs now. I used to only have three jobs. My fourth job is making sure that I get home in time to walk him and get him his medicine and feed him. And oh my gosh, the farts. He's just farts so much. It's every single day, all day long.
Dog after
He's
my
really
own
sweet
heart.
though. Not to mention, he's the bossiest little boy. He's an old man, but he is so bossy. If I ever take him out, he has to go somewhere completely different than we went last time. I just let him drag me wherever he wants to go. 99% of the time it's towards Petco. He wants to go to Petco. But but it's also because there's a giant park there and he likes the park.
So,
And he
so where the
does
pets
not get
go.
along well with other dogs.
Oh, poor
Other than that, though,
babies.
I've been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy, probably too much Grey's Anatomy. My brain is rotted. I have I have nothing but Shonda running around in my brain. All of the seasons of Grey's Anatomy after season 9 can be boiled down to one single issue. People not talking to each other and not wanting to say things to each other because they don't want to hurt each other's feelings. And then they do, and then it's just like, you lied to me, you kept this from me. And it's just like, how many times can you get mad at somebody for not talking to you, for not saying what they're supposed to say to you before you finally just quit and move on? Sorry.
Well, I know I advocated pretty strongly for the Grey's Anatomy tarot card deck, but honestly, I don't know anything about the show, so I have to ask you. I heard somebody got hit by a helicopter, and ever since I've been told about
Um,
that, I've been wondering how that happened.
like
Um,
struck by a helicopter.
mm,
That's what I was told. I was told
Oh,
somebody got by a helicopter.
Well,
on the ground. So I'm confused.
yeah, well, there's that. There's also the helicopter that
Wait, there are multiple
Were
helicopter
there
murders?
multiple helicopter incidents?
What is going on in this hospital?
there's the big plane crash season finale. There's the helicopter that made them accidentally push a gurney off a building that crashed into a car filled with two teenagers who were sneaking off.
Was
Okay,
there
anyway.
somebody on the gurney? This sounds like the greatest show ever. I think I might actually check it out.
We have to move on. We have to
Oh,
move on.
Do we have to? There's not
There's-
any other news happening
We
in
have
the
too many
world of tabletop.
headlines to be talking about Grey's Anatomy. We need to get into some headlines here. Let's start off with a little bit of info, a little bit of news about Gen Con. Marcus, take it away.
Absolutely. Well, right now, starting actually on March 18th, the participation grants for Gen Con 2024 open. The participation and grants are awarded to help those gaming enthusiasts from historically underrepresented communities attend a Gen Con in Indianapolis. Participation grants include complimentary 4-day badges and a stipend ranging from $450 to $1,000 for people who would like to attend the convention in Minneapolis but find it cost prohibitive. So make sure, so there's a link in chat that should be popping up there. If you think you apply or you are applicable to these, apply to these grants, you will be I'm not be able to talk here. The grants are open March 18th to April 15th, 2024. That's when the applications are going to be available to be submitted. However, everyone, whether you receive an approval or not, will be made aware May 6th, 2024. If you made that. So please take a look there at the link, follow that, and more information for Gen Con 2024.
I remember when this thing got started, when people were talking about getting not really like scholarships, but getting funding to actually go and visit Gen Con, or other conventions like PAX and stuff have been doing this too. I love that there are people out there who can now join in on this fun weekend that we all get to go to every single year and see like what all the hype is about and how it's changing every single year, how the lines are getting longer every single year. They actually get a chance to stand in those lines. It's pretty magical.
I don't love the lines.
We don't
That's
love
fair.
the lines, but we do love the access that this affords people who don't necessarily have the means to get there for this is for like teachers, educational purposes, streamers, industry people. So this is really cool. I love this source. I love more people coming to Gen Con, especially if you haven't had the opportunity before. It is pretty magical, as wild as it can get, as long as those Lorcana lines may feel in your heart. It is still worth it to be there. It's so much fun. So please sign up for these participation grants. It starts March 18th and goes until April 15th.
Woo! All right.
Woo!
Awesome. So let's move on into our next headline. Bonsai, take it away. You're going to tell us a little bit about this thing called Daggerheart.
Yeah, just as Noir mentioned earlier on their recap, Daggerheart. Now, also thank you to Matt Jarvis from Dicebreakers for bringing this article to us. Daggerheart, a highly new, basically high fantasy RPG from the folks of Critical Role, just a little RPG company, you may have heard of, has finally reached out and published their public playtests on stage right now. The rules, of course, aren't finalized, as is they aren't even copy edited yet. But they do provide a general complete set of rules and a full complete introductory adventure with pre-gen characters to try it out. It's really, like, from what I could see, it was really nice to see what they've come up with. The rules feel more like this is gonna be controversial, some people might think, but it feels like what D&D should have been if it wasn't trying to carry all the baggage of and expectations of being D&D. You know how when they went to fifth edition, and how fifth edition still needed to pull in the folks who originally liked D&D. This feels like what they wanted it to be. It has so that's just my opinion. A lot of people might have objections to that. All the characters are all the character building and combat mechanics weight that a lot of folks love about D&D. So how people really just enjoy D&D for character building, you get that. While adding a bunch of narrative fail forward. So like how you watched in the D&D movie, you could probably do those actions now. Of course, it's very inspired from what I see is powered by the apocalypse kind of games. Also, it seems that the game is more leaning towards theater of the mind combat, which seems especially important for those who want to make it a streamable game or running it for a podcast. And for since I like the rules so much, me and my gaming group are going to be playing it this weekend, so I'll probably get to talk more about it. Noir, since you've actually played it, you want to tell us if my theories were spot on, or you're like, nah, this is wrong. You're wrong.
No, you're spot on some things. Um, there are going to be some adjustments that people are going to have to get used to. For example, the main dice that you roll in this are 2d12. They represent your hope and your fear die. So,
Yes.
for example, if I were to give your character a task, you would roll your hope and your fear die. You would add them both up together, with your modifier. But depending on which die rolled the highest, you either roll with hope or with fear. So let's say, for example, you were climbing a wall. You would roll your athletics or your strength. If you roll it with hope, you get a resource called hope, which is used to empower a bunch of skills and your spells and that sort of thing. However, if you roll with fear, that gives the DM resources to send adversaries and traps and things your way. So every roll has an effect on what's happening, which is, I think, pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
They did something very interesting with HP in the sense that you don't just get like, 100 hit points. Rather, everyone gets a certain number of boxes of hit points. And depending on the amount of damage that you take, for example, if you take, I believe it's 3 points of damage, that checks off one box. If you take 6 points of damage, it checks off two boxes. If you take 9 points of damage, that's three hit point boxes that are taken down, but you can resist by using your armor. It's
Oh.
I say all this to say, um, you're right in the sense that this game would be it would be fine, theater of the mind, but there are also a bunch of rule sets for mini gameplay as well. And I think when you consider where it's coming from, Critical Role, it makes sense that they would make sure to be able to essentially seamlessly transition from using D&D to Daggerheart, and that they would have rules for figure combat. But it's a fun system. I think everybody should try it out. I think you're gonna need an open mind, a lot of normal a lot of things that have become staples in the TTRPG scene are gone. For example, there is no initiative. Essentially, as GM, you choose when the bad guys attack, whatever. And the party gets to choose when they attack, and you can do joint attacks, which is really cool. But it does take an organized, structured, and respectful table to run this successfully. If you're somebody that's like a power or a meta gamer, this probably isn't going to be your cup of tea. But if you're like me and you're very invested in the narrative and you kind of want to see everybody be awesome at the table, then you're gonna want to give this one a swing. It's really fun.
All right. Oh, so it's cool to learn that it's like City of Mist, because I think that one is also by negotiation first on who do you think's power works the best before you go.
Kind of like, I mean, what I was saying that you were nail on the head. There's a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse in here.
Which I
For
love.
Yeah, for example, instead of just doing skill points or whatever, you can call upon your experience, and your experience is a sentence that you create in relation to the character. And then you essentially have to justify to the GM how that sentence relates to what it is your character is trying to do, and then they get the bonus for it, which is really, really cool.
All right, let's go ahead and move along into our next headline here. For this, I will lead you in to a discussion. this discussion has been a long time coming. For this discussion, I require the assistance of my soapbox. Anita, would you mind? Oh my god, we get it. You think trains are cool. So overrated. Folks, what happened to us? We used to be great. We used to be legends. We used to roll dice with purpose, with confidence. You say, you roll dice because you like the sound of it. You say you roll dice into dice trays because you don't like them going off the table. Then why? Why are you not using dice cups? Specifically, mini dice cups. Now, hear me out here. What are the pros and cons? What are the pros and cons of a dice cup? Pros. You get to hear your dice rattling around inside the safety of a cup. It's not going anywhere. Pros. You place that cup down onto the table and you get the drama. Let's talk about cinematic, revealing what is underneath that cup, what the die has rolled onto. Pros. Let's talk about how your dice end up cocked somewhere on the table because it landed where you didn't expect it to. That doesn't happen with a dice cup. Okay. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But Javion, it's too loud. It's hurting my ears. It's deafening. I hear what you're saying. A dice cup is unnecessary. Why am I going to go out and buy a cup just for rolling my dice? Well, I'll tell you why. This article comes to us from Jeffrey Dom Sanchez of ICV2, and it's all about some news that came from the GAMA Expo 2024. Marcus, you already had a chance to see all of it, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the Dungeons & Dragons mini dice cup reveal. Serious Dice has revealed a set of mini dice cups, which are hitting retail in 2024. Last week, we had a discussion about collections and why we collect things. In these little packages, you get a randomized cup, one of 24 different cups. You could get the Elminster cup, the Mind Flayer cup, a Beholder, and much more. These are rare metal cups, okay? Collector's items. You find one in every 12.5 cups. So you don't even know if you're going to get a metal cup or not. It's fun. It's exciting. Grab yours today or when they do release. I don't think they're actually out yet. They're hitting retail later this year. Do you guys have any explanation, any real reason why you don't use dice cups? I'm curious.
I would say for me personally, the only reason I don't use dice cups is because I like trying to hold all of them in my hand. Unless I'm playing Yahtzee, which I think is a cup-based game. You need a cup for that. If I'm playing with dice cups, I will more likely use the cup that came from this picnic one-piece set that I have. That is a little picnic cup on top that I would use to roll the dice. But other than that, I don't really see a need for it myself.
Okay, Noir is holding up something to the camera that was blurry.
Yeah,
His
I
dice
just got that.
trays.
It's censored.
There you go.
It-
Look at that. I would much rather roll in a nice dice tray.
Yeah.
Ooh, shiny. Oh, Bonsai, look at you. Is that one you made?
Yeah, it's one I made.
Nice.
The dice trays.
And we
Okay,
got
I'm
wee
seeing a
little
lot
one.
of really cool things here. I'm seeing a lot of excellent, really beautiful things that we're using for our dice accessories.
No,
But
come
I
on.
ask you, I implore you, why? Why are these things in contrast to one another? Why are we fighting this? We could be using these things together. Why not grab your dice cup and use it in a dice tray? What's the harm?
See, now go ahead, Noah, please. I have nothing.
I'm trying not to be terribly blunt, but this is kind of a sign to me that Wiz Wizards of the Coast just kind of got real lucky with how our D&D exploded. Because if this is what they think we want,
Shout out to
it-
Cranston Snort in chat.
Honestly, just sell them as shot glasses. I would be more inclined to buy it as a shot glass than a mini dice, whatever it is they're trying to market this. Just don't treat me like I'm stupid. We all gonna drink booze out of these. Let's just let's just get let's cut to the end.
Well, if you look at Serious Dice, the company that makes these, like they make a fair amount of D&D products specifically for D&D with D&D. The quality on some of their dice looks, I haven't seen them all, but like the Lotus Spin Down D20 from Magic the Gathering, like looks gorgeous. It's a gorgeous die. They have like their blind packs. So like this is they're good without the cups. I don't think they need us to buy the cups, but if you are interested in these D&D cups specifically, you now have them.
Oh.
Can I? Can
Oh,
I?
no. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just this one last week.
Please.
I'm gonna shoot my shot for Wizards of the Coast marketing. Here we go. If you would have sold these as creature shot glasses, and whenever somebody beats a monster, they take a shot, this would have been so
Oh.
much cooler, and it would have shown that you understand your client base. This is just kind of dumb. I'm sorry.
You know what? No, Noir. No, you're wrong. You're all wrong. Dice cups are awesome. Dice cups, we should be using dice cups. Dice cups have been used for the longest time. Gamblers know what they're doing when they use these dice cups. I don't know why. Nothing any of you have said has given me any reason not to actually use a dice cup. Dice cups help. Dice cups are good. Dice cups are pretty. We should use dice cups.
Speaking of scams, Javion, do you want to hop the next headline?
Yeah, it looks like there is a report that came out from Fortune, and this article comes to us from Matt Jarvis of Dicebreaker. This company, Fortune, is a blog site. It's a cryptocurrency blog site giving news about crypto. Why? What does this have to do with the role-playing game or tabletop scene? Their report was about Kickstarter. Apparently, according to this report, almost a fifth of all the money raised from Kickstarter projects goes to scam campaigns. These are campaigns that might be using false pretenses, getting you to back them, saying that they're going to ship you something, and then it just never gets fulfilled. Perhaps they are giving you an idea of what you're actually going to be getting, and then it arrives in poor quality, or perhaps you get shipped the wrong items without any real promise of customer service taking care of it, refunding you, or shipping you the products you actually purchased. It's important to remember that all Kickstarter campaigns must be backed by signing, well, not really signing, checking a box that says that you read their disclaimer, saying that you understand that this is not an actual store where you are being guaranteed your items, and Kickstarter is not responsible for anything that happens to your payment after the Kickstarter is funded. However, people still expect to get the things that they paid for, especially if you paid a lot of money. There's an estimate of that up to 18% of the revenue generated for Kickstarter's own alleged internal data originated from fraudulent products. I myself have been a huge Kickstarter fan, a super backer, if you will. I've backed over 77 projects through Kickstarter and otherwise. And there are several projects that I funded that I've given up getting them. They said it point blank. Hey, listen, we got your money, and unfortunately, I can't think of a single solution to actually either getting you your product or giving you your money back. So, my apologies. Good luck. I paid $150 for this game system that I actually had my hands on at a PAX long ago, and it just never happened. It had been backed several times and people had gotten their products before, but this is just one of those instances. We're also seeing how AI is taking its own toll on how scamming is changing the face of gaming in the future. People who are stealing projects or the plans for those projects and then selling them off in like second or third markets and things like that. This is a really unfortunate thing to see happening, and unfortunately, this is coming at a really bad time for Kickstarter because it's seeming like they're losing a lot of the steam that they had been rolling with for a really long time. It used to be a household name even, but now we're seeing other sites that are starting to feel a little bit more reliable, such as GameFound and BackerKit and a bunch of other ones that have more of a focus on tabletop gaming. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you had any experience with these kinds of things happening with Kickstarter? Do you have any idea or predictions when it comes to how Kickstarter might have to proceed in the future if they want to combat this?
So as far as I probably have the least experience actually backing things on Kickstarter of this group. I personally am always wary. Like I have nothing against Kickstarter and crowdfunding. We love crowdfunders here, but like specifically the fear of putting in my money and time and waiting for something that's not guaranteed to come is always more stressful than me than like going to buy something that I know exists. And so for me, I'm always a little put off by the lack of safety of Kickstarter, even though that they do actually fairly they are fairly safe, minus this report that we're getting. I know that it's been a big problem. Like you actually were the first person to Javion were the first person to talk to me kind of about your struggles with Kickstarter and getting not necessarily scammed, but getting not hearing anything for so like how difficult it is sometimes to reach out despite the resources that Kickstarter does make available. So as far as like Kickstarter needs to start making good decisions publicly. Like they need to actually start like with the blockchain issue a couple years ago, and then the Forbes article this last week about what went on there. It's very messy. They're not gonna be the household name that they want to be, especially like you mentioned, all the other competitors that are coming up that are actually doing things a little bit better. Even just the visual presentation of some of these other games on other sites is significantly better than it has been on
Right.
Kickstarter.
My opinion is that maybe the reason why these are coming out now more than it was before, because there have been problems with Kickstarter. People forget, like there was a time where Kickstarter was a void. You throw in and forget about spending your money there,
Oh,
and not all projects would come to. I think it's because there is competition and there is more reliable sources for people to fund, for creators to come and get funding from other folks, that people are now taking a real look at what's going on with this company, because it is not the only, they don't have the monopoly anymore. And so people are like, wait a second, let's go ahead and look at this a little bit closer. But it also is to keep in mind that, hey, Kickstarter has always been kind of like this, like gambling kind of a way. Uh, Definitely we've gotten used to in terms of the board game community to be more on point, to be more accountable. But yeah, it is as popular as board games become more and more popular, there's more and more instances for people to take advantage of folks.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, I've seen some bad practices on both sides of this, on both sides as someone presenting the Kickstarter and somebody who's been duped by the Kickstarter. I really think that there needs to be some sort of reputation um that sticks
ooh.
with people that have failed Kickstarters. I understand that there's a number of reasons why that could happen, but if you if you I mean, even if it's something that's legitimate that caused your Kickstarter to fail, I think you got to wear that badge. I think
Mm.
you got to wear the badge of, this creator, this presenter has this many failed Kickstarters so that people are more informed. And I know that that sounds like it'd be harsh, but I'd rather somebody attempt to do a Kickstarter fail and have to wear a badge that lets everybody know than let somebody continue to feed off of the hope of people in this space and make it harder for them to believe in other people that will legitimately come through for them. So
Exactly. I don't know exactly what a Sophie's Choice is. I haven't looked it up, okay? I'm not a book reader, okay? But I know that unfortunately we have to make a decision here. Is it we like Kickstarter because it gives indie creators an opportunity to platform themselves and back the things that they want, or do we need to start looking at other places where they can do that, right? Kickstarter has always been the home for people who don't have a lot of money for art or to create their own huge trailer video and like huge style and still get a chance to make the thing that they love. So I guess we'll have to keep an eye out to see how Kickstarter makes changes in the future or start looking elsewhere for our board gaming fix. So let's move on to our next headline here. And this one's all about D&D. We got a bunch of D&D headlines lined up. Let's start with the first one, Bonsai.
All right. Well, hey, thank you to Chase Carter from Dicebreaker, as well for bringing this article up. So, D&D survival sim video game in the works? Question mark. There's not a lot of detail coming out, but a new Dungeons and Dragon video game, built as a kind of creative, cooperative survival simulation action RPG, very following, of course. Let's name the elephant in the room. Baldur's Gate 3 coming out. It is set, of course, in as action RPG that's set in the Forgotten Realms, but this is going to be developed by Gameloft Montreal, the studio best known for Disney Dreamlight Valley. People also question, as a kind of a note, this isn't the first time or attempt that D&D has tried to work with somebody to make a game. They had Hasbro itself, the parent company, had 4 different studios, most notably Hidden Path makers of Dark Alliance, who, like, as you know, has indefinitely put on a hold of their other game since the release of Dark Alliance, and also have laid off 44 workers from their game, and just basically kind of closed down studios on that point. There isn't much details about it, so much as like, hey, we want to go ahead and take the lore of the lore of Forgotten Realms and put it into our own kind of game and follow story beats and hopefully be multiplayer. I'm gonna go ahead and just really quick go over some of my concerns that I have for these kind of games, just because I do really love, like, for example, Disney Dreamlight Valley, but my concerns for this is paywall for quests. Lots of microtransactions, pay to win, and the actual ability to play multiplayer in this game. It's not that I don't believe that they can't do it. It's just like, even as somebody who played one of their games, Disney Dreamlight Valley, it took them a very long time for them to be able to activate the ability to play with folks in there, but mostly people just do it solo. So I don't know how other folks feel about this, because it's still very, very early into the project, and also coming behind a lot of the failed or not successful D&D games that have already been released. So it's only a matter of time to say. What are y'all's opinion about this?
Interesting. I have the same concerns as you about microtransactions. It also feels like it's part of the D&D game that I would enjoy just that part being isolated from it. Yeah, this doesn't appear to be for me.
This is the kind of thing where it's got D&D on the name, so people are going to take a look at it. Once you look underneath the surface, you have to decide, is this the kind of game for me, like Marcus was saying. But also, it's alongside a lot of other games in a very similar style, similar genre. So it's going to be compared to them, and if it doesn't hold up, people are going to have to move on.
The only thing I have to say on this is that it's very upsetting that a company can make a bad D&D game and they lay off 44 people, and then a company can make one of the best games of all time using D&D, and folks still get laid off before Christmas. I'm bitter at that, so that's all I have to say.
Well, Noir, I think you've got more to say. Let's go into our next headline about D&D, and it looks like this one's all about Start Playing.
Yes. So Start Playing. Start Playing is joining forces with Wizards of the Coast to celebrate 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons. In celebration of the 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons, leading toy company Hasbro and its Wizards of the Coast division have joined forces with the online role-playing game finder Start Playing to host a series of special gaming events to be held throughout the year to make finding D&D groups even easier. So kicking off on March 26th and continuing throughout the year, the games will feature a selection of D&D's most beloved adventures from the last 50 years. Start Playing will host special D&D play events led by Start Playing's Dungeon Masters. In addition, the company will invite new players and existing fans to honor 50 years of fantasy role-playing with engaging online content and new offerings via a licensing agreement. I know Devin, who is one of the creators of Start Playing games. It's just been amazing to see him build this incredible means of people being able to find D&D tables and play with each other. This has been a powerful tool for the community. I really appreciate that WotC is giving it some support, and I hope that a lot of people learn to love TTRPGs because of it. So good on you.
Yeah,
Hell
I took
yeah.
a look at it and it looks like something really cool for people who love running games as well as people who like playing them. So definitely check it out if you want to actually start running some more games as well. Let's
Abs-
get right into our next headline here. Noir, just a little bit more D&D news for us. What do you got?
Oh, cool. I get to be angry now. So, D&D and Magic the Gathering have compelling use cases for AI, says Hasbro CEO. Um, like a seal releasing from the tomb of great ancient evil, Hasbro CEO Chris Cox recently raised the specter of AI technology within the corporation that owns both Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. Speaking to GameSpeed at Dice Summit on March 1st, Cox explicitly mentioned feeding the tabletop RPG's entire catalog of official releases into an engine similar to ChatGPT, Midjourney, and other large language models. Hasbro has been integrating AI technology into their classic board games for about a year now. Trivial Pursuit Infinite and Virtual Ouija board experiments stand out as recent examples, but they haven't broached the topic with their heavier tabletop brands. And with good reason, as anytime AI touches D&D or Magic the Gathering, fans publicly lambast Wizards of the Coast. Unfortunately for those standing against the reckless tech adoption, it's making Hasbro reliable money during unreliable economic conditions. Trivial Pursuit sales rose by 30% following its experiment. The CEO was noted as saying this is cutting edge technology, and Hasbro is a 100-year-old company. When you talk about the richness of the lore and the depths of the brands, D&D has 50 years of content that we can mine. Literally thousands of adventures that we've created, probably tens of millions of words we own and we can leverage. Magic the Gathering has been around for 35 years, more than 15,000 cards we can use in something like that. We can leverage all of that to be able to build very interesting and compelling use cases for AI that can bring our characters to life. We can build tools that aid in content creation for users to create really interesting gamified scenarios around them. So, that's the CEO of Hasbro, Chris Cocker, talking about taking all of the writing and the art from Wizards of the Coast, D&D, and Magic, putting them into AI and using the content to sell to you. So you let me know how you think about what you think about that, because I don't like it. But what do you guys think?
I feel like this does rob from people from who like need to have royalties because it is still their intellectual property. It's just being blended into something. So
Yeah, they
I
want to bring their characters to life, and they can't conceive of a way of doing that without AI.
Yeah, this is this ain't great. I am already happy to. This is just me. This is Hi, I'm Marcus. I that's all I am. This seems pretty silly, and I love seeing the already passionate response as expected from fans, haters, anything of D&D already attacking or going after this ridiculous quote and this kind of absurd idea. Yeah, I got no love in my heart for this.
Yeah, this isn't really news to us. It's definitely something that we A, saw coming, and B, we've been seeing all year, all last year as well. Unfortunately, we have to wait. We have to wait to see how AI develops, and we have to make sure that we continue to put that pressure on Hasbro, on WotC, on all of our tabletop creators to make sure that they're being diligent, that they're doing what they can to develop tools or utilize ones that are being made in order to keep people honest, to make sure that everybody who's creating things for all of the community get exactly what they deserve, whatever that means. Ooh, man. Okay, well, that was a pretty heavy topic. Those were some pretty cool headlines. we're going to lead right into our very special interview-worthy segment with the Dietz Foundation. So let's go ahead and roll right into that.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Awesome. Welcome back to Interview Worthy on TableTakes. We are joined by a very special guest from the Dietz Foundation. Jim, I want to introduce you to our hosts. This is Bonsai, Noir, and Javion. Folks, this is Jim. I had the pleasure of meeting Jim at GAMA this past week. Jim, would you like to talk about yourself a little bit and what the foundation does?
Sure. The Dietz Foundation is the world's only intentionally nonprofit game company. And you have to add that intentionally given the way game companies are. So what wound up happening is I used to own a business, sold it, and then I coach sports, and I would always tell kids, if you're going to complain, find a solution. And after I stopped working for somebody else, I realized I was doing a lot of complaining and not a lot of solving. And one day on the way to work, I started number crunching the profits that are made on a couple games out there. And I realized if you took the profits from just those two games, I could have made college free for kids in entire states like Kansas or Wyoming or Oklahoma in
Wow.
perpetuity. And so I was like, hey, wait a minute, why not form a nonprofit? And that's where the Dietz Foundation came from.
That is incredible. So how are you able to operate like that with as an actual non-for-profit?
Um, it's an odd combination with other game companies
Yeah.
because when people operate for profit, everything is about maximizing the money that comes in. And on our end, we don't have to do that. Our goal is the game that we're producing going to have value? It's weird to go from being hyper capitalist to PBS.
I would
Um,
imagine, yeah.
and so I've learned to hear the word no a lot and do a lot of begging and move from there. For the most part, it's like running a regular business, a regular game company with producing games. Um, Create the game, put it on Kickstarter or crowdfund it if you can, sell it through retailers. The difference is that when the game is done, most people are taking that and using their profits to create other games, to go big booths, travel, whatever it may be, or $1 million salaries, because we're talking game companies here.
We were just
And
talking about that actually.
oh, okay, perfect, perfect. But what winds up happening with us is we take that money and use it for a bunch of purposes. We start high school scholarships, or at that level for kids who want to become teachers.
Right.
We've started a college scholarship for people separating from government service who want to go back to school to become teachers.
Oh.
We're in the process of, I've got a meeting this next week with Haskell University, which you guys probably don't know Haskell. Its full name is the Haskell University of the American Indian Nations. And
Oh,
they're in Lawrence, Kansas.
Oh.
And they're not funded very well by the government in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And they serve a clientele that doesn't necessarily make a lot of money. So we're going to endow another scholarship at Haskell. Um,
Awesome.
in addition to that, we take a lot of the games we produce and we'll donate them to teachers. and community organizations. And beyond that, then I go around to trade shows and I come up to gamer booths and go, "Hi, would you please hand me some cheese and donate some games?" That cheese references from Muppet Christmas Carol for people
Yep.
watching.
No
Yeah.
cheeses for us Mises.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And so then I ask companies, if you'll just send me stuff, I can get it to places. And my former employer, Ultra Pro, was the first to trust us with that. And after Ultra Pro, we've gotten big donations from Later Games, because I refuse to pronounce it leader because it's German for leather. Um, sorry, Van Ryder, Queen Games has given us stuff. We've received a lot of games and books that we've then proceeded to distribute to schools, libraries, and everything. Over the past 6 months, it's total probably about $200,000 of games and books.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I love hearing about that. I love hearing that. Go ahead, Bonzo. You were going to say something.
Oh no, I was just gonna like in terms of in depths of the like ads, like so how like in terms of people you are looking to work with, or if somebody wants to approach you to work with you, like what do you look for, and also how what are ways they can approach you with like a product or opportunity?
Um, the normal way, for game designers, which of course then is, well, what's the normal way? Um, you can reach out through the website. That's how a lot of designers do it. And just, I have this game idea. Can I pitch it to you? And then my response is always, yeah, yeah, sure. So that works. I go to some shows depending on my schedule. If I'm at a show, great. Origins, Historicon, come on up. I also try and get to a couple proto spiels.
Nice.
Not because I'm not actually there because I want games that are there. I just like helping designers, sometimes with how to what a publisher's looking for, in terms of print efficiency and stuff. I just also really admire the creativity of game designers, because game design is not a skill I have. So when I see new games, it's just really spectacular. To go, oh my God, how did you do that? Now, to be fair, Protospiel has also provided me with a couple of the games I've done, and has another one coming up this spring. So I Protospiels are wonderful things. So that's really the long answer to a short question.
So now, actually, talking about some of these games, I had the pleasure of talking with you at your booth at GAMA 2024 and looking through some of the games. But I would love to hear some of the games that you actually produced that you are particularly excited about, passionate about, or I know there's a couple new ones coming like soon too. So if you want
Right.
to plug any of those, please.
The one of the ones that it's, as a nonprofit, we can deal with controversy. We did one on the civil rights movement,
Mhm.
where that in the end allowed us to donate about $8,000 or $9,000 to the Reverend John Scott Scholarship Fund in Louisiana.
Nice.
If you don't know who John Scott is, look him up. It's all good. There aren't any I'm not proud of. The ones I really like, coming up, Kremlin, which is an old Spiel des Jahres runner-up from the 80s. It's probably my favorite board game of all time. We've been able to do a lot of good work with a game called Littoral Commander, which was done by Sebastian Bay, who runs the Georgetown University war game group, where he actually teaches game design out at GU. And as part of that, he was making these games that are $300, $400 custom made, because he had been told this wasn't possible to do commercially. And I was like, I'm a nonprofit. I'm here to help education wherever I can. So we've been able to get that game into hundreds of military units so that they can now use gaming, as a way of learning rather than burning millions of dollars on field exercises. Which is great when I get to talk to four-star generals and civilian like vice chairs of NATO and stuff. It's an ego trip.
I bet.
I've liked the games that I've done that have been first-time designer games. Our game Sharks is a first-time designer. Um, and she designed it to be educational for kids about eating sharks, shockingly. We've got another coming out called Off with His Head, which is a logic game about the French Revolution and trying to put the right puppet on the throne.
Perfect timing for
Which
that one.
It was pretty cool. I got to like test it a little bit. It was pretty cool. Pretty
yeah,
cool.
and it's only going to be $20.
Oh, heck
Um,
yeah.
but what I told Marcus is don't play it with alcohol in the system because
Yes.
I don't think it will go well. Um, that's a bad thing. But that's another first time desire, Ian Winningham. And we've got a couple more that are first timers. This summer we're going to Kickstarter with a game on the Chicago Democratic Convention in the riots of 1968.
This one looks and sounds. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry. This one looks and sounds so fascinating. Just hearing some of the stuff that you were able to tell me about it at the booth at GAMA. So please continue. This is so cool.
Yeah, it's a sandbox game where you can play with up to four people. Up to four people. It's meant for two sides: the establishment and the I'll call it the hippies. But then you can break it down where one side is Mayor Daley with his goals, the other is the Democratic Party with their goals, while you can break down the protesters into your anti-Vietnam protest group and the yippies who are there for political theater. And so you can play it four games, but it's a sandbox game in that you don't have to be violent to win. If you can try and win by protesting peacefully and getting media attention, you can win as the establishment by restricting the protests without the cops pulling out the tear gas and the billy clubs. But the game also kind of shows you that once one side resorts to violence, in all likelihood, it's just going to escalate. So that if I throw a rock at somebody, they're pulling out the billy clubs. And the minute the billy clubs come out, we're torching trucks and destroying property and everything else. So that it kind of teaches the lesson of escalation in there as well. But that's a first time design group. It's a pair of brothers in Chicago, Yoni and Ronan Goldstein. Um, and then after that, we've got one on building colleges called Academia by Ian Pitlars, where you get to build your college however you want and to be the most successful college. Um, you can do it by building a massive athletic department, Alabama, or you can do it through a huge graduate program, a great graduate program like Caltech. You can build just a large university. Um, and the cool thing is when you build buildings onto your campus, all of the buildings in the game exist somewhere in a college, like the indoor surf pool, the indoor surfing complex. Texas Tech apparently has this. Oh my
Really?
God.
What?
Yeah,
I guess if you want to surf in Texas, you need somewhere to go.
I mean,
that
that
just
makes
boggles
sense.
my mind.
Yeah.
But what I liked about it is the tagline is it's the game of administrative bloat. So it's a Euro style game, and you want to add buildings to your campus. To build a building, you probably are going to need administrators. So you have to hire administrators. Administrators can do one thing. After they've done their one action, you still have them. They still take up space and they do nothing from that point forward. So you need administrators to do stuff, but once you do that, they take up space. If they take up too much space, you have to build more offices for the administrators so you can hire more administrators so you can do other stuff. But you can't ever get rid of your administrators. This should sound like college to everybody.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm not the associate vice executive interim dean of Podunk U from that comment.
So
But
one last thing I want to talk about because I've actually now have the images side by side so I can actually look at them. The glow up that the Kremlin board game had. I like the original Kremlin look, the design of it, but like the visuals of the release that y'all are doing is gorgeous. The dossiers, the overall look and the feel is so smooth.
when you talk the original, do you mean the original Fata Morgana or do you mean the Avalon Hill one?
Oh, see, that I might have
Okay.
the I think I have the Avalon Hill one actually up.
Okay, because the original one, when they did it, they made the product intentionally junky because they wanted to make it look like it was a fake communist production.
I see. I
Mm.
see. Oh, now I see the
Oh,
original ones. Please continue.
yeah.
That's
So, and
brilliant.
those rules had very Eastern rules, like if a politician dies in it, you have to stop the game and do a toast with vodka, saying
Wow.
good stuff about the deceased politician.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
Avalon Hill imported it, did that one. So with ours, what we did is instead of the more cartoon art, I talked with the artist, a guy named Jacob Walker, and we came up with the idea of I'm going to call it film noir and using photographs for the various people. The real historical politicians, obviously, they're there. We had volunteers for the fictional politicians in it with the photos, and so that it would look like dossiers, like you're pulling a photo out of the person's secret folder.
Oh, so cool.
I really recommend it. Kremlin's a great game for 5, 6 people. Um, Most played game me and my friends have.
That is
That
So
awesome.
sounds so cool, especially
Yeah.
with it looking like it was made to be propaganda on purpose.
Yep.
yeah,
Oh,
and it was. It was.
Uh,
And the great thing is, I'll tell you, the original designer Urs, the original designer and his team, they're great people. They're still in Switzerland. He's always excited when I contact him because they did a copy for Jolly Roger. And he's like, I thought people forgot about my game. I'm like, oh my God, no. People still love it, but everybody thought the rights to the game were tied up with Avalon Hill, Hasbro, and all that. So I had contacted him and he's like, no, we have all the rights. And I was like, oh, well, then can I publish? He's like, oh my God, really? Nobody's contacted us. I was like, yes, please. And away we go. And so as soon as I started the foundation like 4 years ago, I reached out then and said, can I do the game again, please, once I'm established and have a few games out? And he's like, oh, yeah, totally.
oh, hell yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
That's so cool.
Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. If you just stick around, we are unfortunately out of time for today's episode. But if you want to check out the Dietz Foundation, follow them at go to dietzfoundation.org. .org. You can do a /donate if you want to give as well. This is so cool to have you on after meeting you and talking about this. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to plug real quick before we sign off?
Oh, no, but if people want to come up and learn more, just come up to the booth at a con. Email. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and even Instagram. So feel free to reach out. We're here to help.
And we'll post those links in chat for y'all. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Just stick around as Javion says goodbye to everyone. Javion.
Yeah. So that was Jim Dietz from the Dietz Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. And thanks to all of you for helping us with this amazing episode of Table Takes we've had. Just so you know our schedule, all of these times are Pacific. On Mondays, we have Peter versus the Machine at 9 a.m. and Dress to Quest at 6 p.m. On Tuesdays, we've got Vampire the Masquerade with Indie by Night at 7 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have Miniature Painting with Path of the Brush at 4 p.m. and then Actoroki at 6 p.m. On Thursday mornings, we've got Blood on the Clock Tower at 10 a.m. And on Fridays, we've got TableTakes right here at 2 p.m. Pacific. We'll be right back here next week. Thank you once again to our Gen Con crew. We've got Anita in the back helping out with production. We've got Steve Connard, Sarah Moore, and Tanel Lovett. Thank you to all of our delightful co-hosts, Bonsai Baby, Noir Enigma. Thank you for joining us once again, Marcus Mays. And thank you to our special guest, Jim Dietz, for coming in today. We had such a great time with you. And thanks most of all to you out there watching in Twitch chat. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for following here on Gen Con TV for more of the best 4 days in gaming all year long on twitch.tv/GenConTV. And I guess that's it. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.